Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify and Audio Boom, we're across a range of different audio platforms. We are, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And of course, we are also live on YouTube. And yes, MSU, like Daniel Levy, we are slightly late, but there's still time. We're 2nd of January. Lots of time to come on transfers. Don't you worry about it. If you hear it, we'll let you know for sure. Delighted to be joined by 3 returning guests. First up, I'm so blessed, twice in a week. The brilliant Chris Cowlin, who runs a wonderful YouTube channel. You must know who Chris is. If you don't, what are you doing? Go and subscribe to that channel. Chris, how are you? Lovely to have you back on.
Yes, Happy New Year, Rick. Nice to be on with you, Pete and Simon, and Happy New Year to all of the viewers and listeners. Another good win, another win under Antonio Conte. Super excited about our new manager, for the first ever manager in our history to go, their first 8 games unbeaten, 5 wins, 3 draws. I think there's a lot to look forward to this year.
Absolutely. And what a time to be making your debut. We're handing out 2 for this evening. First up, we've got sports agent and founder of Dark Horses, the award-winning advertising agency, Simon Dent joins us. Simon, lovely to have you here. Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Good evening. Yeah, I'll echo Chris's comments there. I think it's going to be a very exciting year for us. Bit of a clunky start, but got the 3 points. And I think in the last sort of couple of months, they're not the sort of games we'll be winning. So yeah, it's a good start to the year and excited about 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, the Conte train is rolling on, and I think the excitement in the air is there for all to see. Also pleased to welcome this guy to be making his debut tonight. We've got Pete Haines, the THSD board secretary. Pete, lovely to have you here as well. How are you?
Very well. Good to be on finally after all these years.
I think I've met everybody else, Pete, from the Tottenham Hotspur Trust, apart from yourself. So apologies for that. Lovely to have you here.
That's okay. It's good to be here.
I'm lovely to have you here. Well, listen, guys, we're talking about a great weekend for Spurs. And in general, I hope many won't mind me saying this. It started with Arsenal getting beaten in the last minute. And obviously Spurs leaving it late ourselves, but getting the win. And let's start with you, Chris, because it was a big 3 points for Spurs to kick off a really difficult month for us in general. And listen, I think we deserve the credit by the way in which we kept on going. We fought to the very end. I think massive credit to Watford, who made it very difficult for us during that game. And, you've got to say the obvious takeaway is that Spurs, we need to improve. The breaking down of defences against a real stubborn side is what we need to do. But how delighted are you to come through with a 3 points at Watford where during that game it wasn't look like it was going to come?
To be honest, though, Rick, we created so many chances. And as I've said before, in these last 2 months, we have come a long way under Antonio Conte, a lot of the same players. And it's the way that Antonio Conte has, improved a lot of these players in games. We had to break Watford down. Watford didn't really look like scoring a goal. They were playing for a 0-0 draw. From the 46th minute, their goalkeeper was just wasting time with goal kicks, etc. Didn't really look threatening whatsoever. And it was about how we took an opportunity when it arose. And it was about getting the 3 points, and we grinded that result out. Even late on, Antonio Conte was shouting instructions to the team, wanting this win, wanting and demanding the win, as he has done in the last couple of months. And, games like this, Watford away, games like this can be very difficult sometimes, but it's about how you get the 3 points, and we got there in the end. Incredibly, I know a lot of people are saying about Emerson Royale and Sergio Reguilon about the amount of crosses that we got in. We created a Premier League record this season, 39 crosses, 36 from open play, but only 7 of those crosses actually reached a teammate. So I think that is where we do need to improve. The offensive players, the 5 offensive players that we have in our team, do need to create a lot more. But we have created a lot more than we did under Nuno Espirito Santo, because let's face it, 2 months ago we weren't even having a shot on target. And to be 5 wins in, 3 draws in Antonio Conte's 8 games in charge in the Premier League so far, as I keep saying, and as I keep saying on every single show that I do, I am super excited about Antonio Conte, because this is a huge month. We're playing Chelsea 3 times. We've got a North London derby, of course, the FA Cup game as well. At the end of this month, I still want to be in this exciting position under Conte, and I'm sure we will, because we just seem to be getting results under him, and every single player is improving game by game.
Yeah, absolutely. Question for you on the screen here, Chris. Happy New Year. Chris, where's the wardrobe? Where is the wardrobe? I think the wardrobe is behind you, as we can see there. A number of parading Spurs shirts. Just a few of many, Chris, probably.
Yeah, I'm a big Spurs collector, collect everything. So Pete will tell you that. Yeah, collect everything to do with Tottenham. So yeah, very proud of my collection.
And we do love it. Nathan Evans on the screen there says, morning from Australia, lads. What has happened to Sanchez? He was like a slot playing under Jose and Nuno, but now he plays like prime Maldini under Conte. I promise you, Nathan, we're going to cover Davinson Sanchez during this show. Simon, to come over to you. Spurs leave it late, but it was a dramatic ending to a game that, let's be honest about it, looked like it was going to go absolutely nowhere. We really struggled to create a number of chances, devoid, really, some would say, of creativity. But listen, we grounded it out, patient, determined. Are these new words we're saying about Tottenham under Antonio Conte?
I mean, it was a frustrating game, wasn't it? Very similar to the sort of second half at Southampton. Just couldn't find that killer ball. I think that there are a couple of actually things that happened in the game where I thought we were quite lucky. I thought the Hugo penalty shout. I've not actually seen another replay, but the stream I was watching, I confess to watching, looked like a pen to me. And he actually pulled up a very good save as well from King. So it was, it wasn't one-way traffic, but they had a couple of chances. But yeah, it's one of those games where you just keep knocking on the door. And it actually reminded me of those sort of heady days of 2017-18, where we'd always, come up with a last-minute winner. I think there was a classic one at Villa. There were a few, weren't there, where we just kept going and bang. And yeah, I'm happy with where we're going. I think you highlighted the wing-back issue. I was at the game at St Mary's, and Emerson was the outlet the whole game, and I actually thought that he might bring Hill on a bit earlier. I think that had a bit more effect on the stand at St Mary's. But yeah, I think we'll come on to the wing-back discussion later. But all in all, as Chris said, I think it's really encouraging. And yeah, if you look where we've come in the last sort of 6-7 games, it's been fantastic.
Absolutely. The excitement around Spurs fans at the moment, we've got, of course, a big semi-final to look forward to, which we all are. FA Cup still to come. I know, Pete, coming over to you, it's been a while since we felt this excited going into a second half of the season where, you do feel there's something very special happening around Tottenham. The manager, even the players are real buying into this guy. And, as I said, it is a massive result because that goal could be everything by the end of the season. How important, Pete, was that to win in the manner we did in that last minute? Because we all know last minute winners are always special. Chris, you being there, and obviously the guys that have been there away, to do it in that style will feel even sweeter, won't it, for that dressing room?
Oh, definitely. I mean, one thing, it instills confidence that they have the ability to play a game like that they know is going to be tight. They know is going to be difficult to break down. A packed defence, as you said, Watford parked the bus. Apart from, I think, one great save by Hugo and the penalty shout, they didn't create anything. We created everything. Okay, should have taken a few more, but certainly Conte has got that team playing in a style and to a pattern of play that it would appear, certainly the starting 11 on Saturday, are subscribed to. So they know their roles within it, and that was clearly lacking under Nuno. Clearly there was, well, to my eyes, there was no discernible pattern of play, no discernible link between the forwards and the defence. That's changed. And that can only go down to Antonio and his team. Incredible performances. The run, I think, as Chris mentioned, sort of first 8 league games unbeaten. First time ever by any Tottenham manager. That is a mark of the success. There's a long way to go. We all know that, and we can all see that, and we can all see where the team can be improved. But brilliant start.
Do you know what's interesting, Pete, to stick with you, is that the great thing at the moment is that we're getting the results, and whilst we're getting the results, Conte, I think, is actually learning on the job as to what needs to be done to the changing room. And this is a great thing, I think, that, the concern will be that we're going to drop a lot of points and he's going to see the areas that are going to be need for improvement. But at the moment, we're unbeaten in 8 under him in the Premier League. And, although the Southampton result, listen, on paper, you look at the fact we've played an hour with 10 men, you want to win that. But the Watford game, he can already see the areas which are in real need to improve, reinforce, upgrade, and yet we still got the result. Do you think, in a way, with a result like that even strengthens his hand more in the transfer market to say to Daniel, look, you can see the areas are glaring as to what I need in order to improve this squad. If you give me the tools, I can get this team to where they want to be.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd discuss it if it hasn't already taken place. There's a lot of speculation if and when they're going to sit down with Daniel and start talking transfer talk. I'll be amazed if they haven't already done so, to be honest with you. Antonio said very early on, I think within about 2 weeks, he said he knew exactly where the team and the squad needed to be strengthened. He felt that he knew who he could rely on to do a job and who he couldn't. And I think that's been pretty clear from the starting 11 and the benches that he's played over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we know who are in his plans. We've got a pretty good idea as to who's not in his plans. The age-old issue is always going to be, is anybody going to want to buy any of those people that the club want to offload? And how easy is it going to be to find the people to fill those gaps to make an improvement? And also, how much faith does Antonio have in bringing players up like Winks, who,
Yep.
3 weeks ago, a lot of people would have said, no, get rid of him, he's on the goodbye list. He's looked a lot better playing in the structure and knowing what his role within that structure is and getting the ball forward more quickly and moving into the space and supporting the attackers. So, yeah, I'm always an optimist. My glass is always half full. But we've got a very testing January coming up.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are gonna come on to that, I assure you as well. Simon, one of the things that would have come out of that Watford game is this, and whilst it was great to win in the manner we did so late on, showing that grit, determination, the devoid of creativity is a massive concern. Obviously, there's a non-selection of Ndombele for a reason there, because with Conte, you feel that he wants a player to give absolutely everything. And I have to say, someone like Harry Winks, to be fair to Harry Winks, there's no doubt that when he comes on, Winks, he gives everything. He leaves it all on the pitch. And I think Conte, as a minimum, expects that of every player, which I think tells you a lot in terms of his selection. But when you look at Spurs, Watford were a side that were conceding on average 2 goals per game. They have 0 clean sheets. And I think my concern is, do you think there's a blueprint emerging of how to stifle Spurs? Or do you think Conte will always find a way, as we did against Watford? But the Southampton game was almost a little bit of a warning there that it's not going to be as easy as it is with this particular group of players if we're not going to, again, look to go into the transfer market this month and reinforce the squad.
I think the 11 that started are the 11, as Pete quite rightly points out. That's it. I think he's sort of realised that those on the bench are last resorts. Maybe not so much Lo Celso, but I think the others are last resorts. So I think there's going to be 3 additions. Hopefully, going to be 3 additions in January. I don't think any of us think that Skipp and Højbjerg have got any creativity. So I don't really know. The creativity has to come from the wing backs, and we've already highlighted on a few occasions that it's not coming from them. So look, the wing backs are the big problem, and teams. I wouldn't say they're sussing this out. I think Southampton, they're undefeated at home this season. We've only lost 1 at home. Watford was 1 off. Don't forget, we had a few penalty shouts as well. So that could have easily been a 3-0 game. So, it's tricky not to overanalyze it. But I'm confident that with one creative player in the middle, probably instead of Højbjerg, and I know there's a bit of discussion around Højbjerg's role at the club at the moment, but I feel that, someone in the middle there over Højbjerg, someone in instead of Emerson, I think you'd end up sticking with Reggie, but I think that will solve a few problems on the creative front.
Do you know what's interesting, Simon? The weekend's game, that was we had 74% possession. I know that I'm going to be driving Anthony Costa mad because I know Anthony Costa hates stats, but 74%. And the last time we had that amount of possession was our highest since we lost 1-0 to Newcastle back in August of 2019 under Pochettino. And I'm not saying that's something we should be proud of, having that amount of possession and not scoring more than the 1 goal. But I think it just shows that Spurs are, again, happy to have the ball. And that hasn't always been the case when you look under the last few years with Nuno, with Mourinho, having to almost, have to play counter-attacking football. We're going back to a blueprint here of having to, again, enjoy the football and almost look to break teams down. And with the right additions, you feel, we've got a great manager in charge. This is the key, isn't it? You've got to give the man the tools he needs in order to take the club forward.
Can I just say on that point, there's some real basics, though, that have to work. And, passing accuracy is central to all of that. And when you're passing it out from the back, and you're drawing their midfield to press on you in the back, and you're trying to create space in the middle, if one Winks or Højbjerg pass goes astray, it's absolute chaos. And I don't know if you saw the game this afternoon with Chelsea and Liverpool, but my God, if they get the ball in your half, you are, 1 out of 3 times they'll score. And so that's the worry. And I think it's all very well having this 11 that we had on yesterday, but I do question the basics of some of them, and I worry. And I know there's a bit of a new manager bounce. They're all saying, "Oh, Winks has actually turned a corner." Well, I think we have to assess players over the last 3 years, and I don't think we can assess someone over having a few good games under a new manager. So, for me, I think Winks probably should move on. I think that's probably best for both parties. And again, I question. I mean, you cannot question Højbjerg's commitment, but I think you can question his passing radar and ability.
Yeah, I promise you we're going to come on to those 2 players. Chris, I just want to also pick up on the fact before we look in the story of the game. With Conte now, it's just 4 goals conceded in 8 games, and we've now kept 5 clean sheets in our last 8. Just how pleased and absolutely delighted have you been in the way in which Spurs have defensively been able to keep that door shut, and in a way, like I say, progress the points where we haven't yet struck in the window and haven't yet moved for targets. Have you been really impressed by the way in which he has shored it up at the back, when I think we can all say before he came in, that was one of the biggest concerns. Without obviously our summer signing Christian Romero, no one really been mentioned up until Southampton, if we're being honest with you. That's how good the form had been of Sanchez, Dyer there at the back.
Well, when we think, apart from Emerson Royale, the back 4 or 5 hasn't changed since last season. Jose Mourinho swapped and changed it around every single game. He didn't know what his best defence was, and neither did we. Sanchez, Dyer and Davis, they would have probably been 3 names on most people's lists, to ship out the door in this transfer window or in the summer. Now, all 3 of them are playing out their skin. And as you said, Christian Romero, not a lot of people are even saying, well, we need him back, hurry up and get him back, because we really need him at the heart of the defence. Is absolutely incredible. But going back to Peter's and Simon's comments about Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Oliver Skipp, I don't feel that they are in that team to be creative. When you look at the balance of the team, and that's what Antonio Conte is trying to do, balance the team. We've got 5 defensive players, the back 3 and the 2, defensive midfielders. And then you've got the 5 players who are the offensive players who should be creating a lot more. I just feel that if you take someone like Højbjerg or Skipp out of the team and you put a creative flair midfielder in there, you're not going to get that defensive work, and they're not going to be clearing up and breaking up play like those 2 do. And interestingly as well, and I know a lot of people won't like to admit it, where Antonio Conte has really improved a lot of people's games, Harry Winks was our most creative player, not just most creative midfielder. He was our most creative player in the Southampton game, which I know a lot of people won't like. But it is all about improvements. We can see Antonio Conte has improved a number of players, game by game. And I just think that if we can get 1 or 2 additions in this transfer window, it may get us that top 4 spot that we desperately need and want. But I think the main business will be done in the summer. I know a lot of people are expecting big things in this January transfer window. I don't see it myself. I think if Spurs can get perhaps a lone striker until the end of the season, and perhaps a more creative midfielder, but does a lot of defensive work, then we may get over that line.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Chris, that, when you look on paper at just where Spurs are right now, and you mentioned some of the players there, taking into account Conte, at the moment we say unbeaten 8, he's got more than 2 goals XG per game in the last 7 or 8, a positive goal difference. We're now 2 points behind 4th, and you look at it and think, with 2 games in hand, we've got a great chance, I think, of that top 4. Chelsea are just showing signs that they are slightly fragile, and the Lukaku story hasn't helped us whatsoever with the noise around the club, so much so we had to leave him out today, and there's now a massive doubt for the game, of course, against Spurs. And again, we have to not also forget that stat. We've gone from the least amount distance covered to the most, which is a dramatic turnaround for any team. So I think it's hard to sit here and, not make a case that Spurs have got a genuine chance of top 4 if we can improve in certain areas and keep that back door shut. And you'd like to think with Romero, who's coming back into the picture for January, Spurs have got a terrific chance. They really, really have. But we are going to go for our first break of the show. Taking into this break, you're going to hear from Antonio Conte and Ben Davies to give you their thoughts on Spurs leaving it late. And before we go for that break, I'm just going to read out a couple of our listener statements we've had in, a number of them that have come along here. Thank you so much, as always, for getting your statements and questions in. Mark Butcher says, hope you had a good New Year, guys. This is a two-part question first. Does our away form concern you? Because it doesn't seem as fluid as our home form. We do have more games away to play. Second, we all now see the squad needs a rebuild, reshape. Do you think any business will be done? Mike, I promise you we're going to touch upon that in the second half of the show. Nikki at Highland Spurs says, have to win ugly sometimes. Very important with the games to come to get into a run. Need to fully back Conte and start to build this squad. Mark Hickman says, dominated the match, but creativity and wing-back delivery still needs to be improved, but great character to grind out the win. Very happy for Big Dab, who's been playing really well recently to get the goal. JB Bags 10 says, really happy with the performance and win. It's really difficult to break a team down that are disciplined and are a defensive unit. Our quality in wide areas must be improved, but we'll say that so many times this season. Happy New Year to you all. Ross Nolan says, dominant, passed them to death Man City style at times without the incisive crossing, but Conte has it all planned. Happy New Year to you guys. And Craneshaw 19 says, please discuss how Conte won that game for us. Son, quiet for 85 minutes, takes off Reguilon, pushes Son wide without tracking back. That leads to a foul and a goal within minutes. Absolute world-class manager. Well, there you have it first. Right, we are going to discuss the team ahead of this game. So we lined up with a trip, of course, to Watford, where Conte decided to drop Harry Winks to the bench after another good performance from Pierre Højbjerg, who kept his spot. Lucas Moura returns that attacking trio role, replacing Dele Alli, while Giovanni Lo Celso was back in the matchday squad after coming from a calf problem. Conte stuck with his tried and tested of a back three with Sanchez, Dyer and Ben Davies. So that team read Lloris, Sanchez, Dyer, Davis, Emerson, Skipp, Højbjerg, Reguilon, Lucas, Kane. The bench was Golini, Tanganga, Roden, Doherty, Winks, Dele, and Ndombele, Hill. And Pete, I think you said at the start of the show that we kind of already know now what our first 11 is. So when that came out on paper, was that what you was expecting?
No, that was the side I would have gone with. There might have been a case to play Bryan Gil to try and stretch what would have been expected from Watford, i.e. what they actually delivered. But other than that, I wouldn't have changed that side at all. Obviously, we never really know exactly what the fitness levels are or whether there are any COVID issues within the squad, but that's the starting 11 I would have gone with. And when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, fine, absolutely no problem with that.
So let's come around to you. I think we've heard from Conte that he's completed all of his player evaluations. And I think we can see at the moment there's that team now. Would you be surprised if that is not the team going forward, maybe bar Romero to come back into that team for Sanchez at some point?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it, haven't we? I think that will be the team that starts on Wednesday evening and then probably starts on the following Wednesday evening. I think the Morecambe game will be wholesale changes in every position, I hope. Romero in. Obviously, there's talk now of a potential of a lone striker. I still don't know what Llorente did wrong, to be perfectly honest with you. But I think that's a problem that needs to be solved, and hopefully Harry's fitness remains, because obviously we the last thing we need is that rearing his head again. Because that only works with Kane up top, doesn't it? With Son and Moura. I'd be tempted to look at Bergwijn as a potential replacement for Emerson. I'd give it a go. Why not? Emerson doesn't stand out for me as an amazing actual defender, and Bergwijn's got the pace. He can cross the ball. I'm not too sure how good his shot is, but giving that a go. Probably not in a League Cup Semi-Final, but maybe against Morecambe. Who knows? But I think that could be an interesting option. And he must have tried it in training.
Yeah, I know he's come out and said that he could see Bergwijn potentially playing as almost like a false nine as an alternative to Harry Kane in order to give Harry a rest. I think, again, it'll be interesting because, as you said there, Simon, if we're going to be playing the same team against Chelsea and then we're playing again them in the Premier League, and then, of course, we want to make wholesale changes against Morecambe, we're asking the players to provide and obviously give us a lot of minutes. And you just wonder whether, let's be honest about it, a lot of these players have also had COVID. and they're still getting over COVID, and we still don't actually know their fitness levels, if we're being honest with you. That's why also when we do these shows like this and you analyse every player, I'm also cautious to not go too heavy on some of these players that are coming back from a virus that is, obviously it's a worldwide pandemic. So we don't know how every player is slightly affected. And we've heard from several players that they are trying to get over the virus months on. So again, we were asking to play a real intensity game. We saw Chelsea-Liverpool earlier on, just to the high level of intensity that first half was. And then you saw in the second half, almost a natural drop-off. I think it's very hard to sustain 90 minutes of high intensity. And I think with Spurs and Conte, you can see there is a real, I would say, desire to play that almost high pressing game. But I think it's very hard to maintain that for a full 90 minutes. And again, the key will be who can he provide to do that job over the course of the 90. But Pete, will come over to you because I think it's fair to say that first half, that's brilliant. It was almost like I was a magician now. Maybe it was a magician of Conte there, just like whiz. That first half, Pete, I think it was fair to say that, Spurs settled into a nice pattern of possession. And it was very early on that we could see, were Spurs going to be able to break Watford down? Because they was a more stubborn side, you were saying, in Southampton in that first half. We couldn't really get much going at all. To pick up on Chris's point earlier, Pete, Regular and Emerson, they attempted 11 crosses combined, I think, in that first half, of only one of them being accurate. Emerson, it's fair to say, he's come under a lot of stick already from Spurs fans. We saw he lost his dog earlier, which thankfully the dog has now been found. I'm more concerned if that's his telephone number that's gone up there because I hope for his sake he's turned that off. But early days, Pete, on Emerson. But for you, is it fair to judge him right now, or do you think he still needs more time to adapt to the Premier League?
He really needs more time to adapt, and he really needs more time to work on his game. Like before we started broadcasting, we were chatting. I think Chris commented on the fact that he's just so far away from being able to deliver a decent cross, and the amount of space he got, mainly in the first half. They did tighten up on him in the second half, but in the first half, he must have, acres of space, time to deliver a meaningful cross, and I don't think he hit a target once. There's also, when he's on a 1v1, he clearly hasn't got the confidence to go past players. I was certainly frustrated in a couple of the recent home games against Norwich, and it might have been it wasn't the West Ham game, where again he was in a 1v1 position and wouldn't take them on, wouldn't hit the byline. So from that point of view, he's got a lot to learn. I think someone commented on Conte actually insisting on him practicing his crossing pre-match in the warm-up, and he put something like 15, 20 crosses in. So
I think he's still out there now, Pete, from what I hear. I think he's still out there now practicing. Yeah.
It's something he's got to work on. If he wants a permanent position in that, then he's got to be able to deliver that, because that is, as we said, the attacking strength when you've got pace to get the ball into that front three quickly and effectively. I must admit, I'm a big fan of Reggie. I don't recall that many opportunities he had to cross yesterday. They were a lot tighter on him. They obviously saw him as much more of a threat than Emerson, which is sad to say. Maybe they'd watch the Southampton game and learn a little bit from that. But I think there's a player there. He's still young. He's 22. If Antonio can get a tune out of him, I think there's the potential for him to be a really good player. But he really must improve that crossing.
Yeah, I must say, I'll be honest with you, in terms of the crossing, and this is to also stick up a little bit for Emerson, I didn't think Reguilon's was any better. I think both of them, delivery-wise, I think it could have been massively improved. I mean, Simon, what do you think? Because many will pick up on the fact with Emerson that he was given almost, the entire final third from Watford, and almost like they gave him, that space because they knew he wasn't going to deliver. But you couldn't escape the feeling that on the day Watford, I said, I just knew he wasn't going to be much of a threat. But I still think, the guy has only been here a few months and he's still adapting to a new league. I think he's also still adapting to knowing he's coming to Tottenham, because I think he was getting ready, and this is a very well-known story, I think, that he was getting prepared for his Barcelona presentation. He bought the suit, he had it already. Then by the 11th hour, he was told, you're not going to be going to Tottenham. Sorry, you're not going to be going to Barcelona, you're going to Tottenham. I think for anybody, that's a massive...
yeah, he's not recovered from that.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone, you've got to try and recover from that first off, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, but it's such an important position, not just at Tottenham. You know, look at what Liverpool have done with that position, what Chelsea are doing with Reece James. It is so important. And I even go back to, I hate to go back to the heady heights of 2017-18 again, but, you know, look at what we did there. The fundamental, the basics of that side was Danny Rose, Trippier, Walker. It was those three that were creating chances and causing havoc before it was really that fashionable. Everyone else caught up with us. We moved those three on, and we just haven't replaced them.
Yeah. I must say, though, Chris, coming over to you, that, again, you know, I think this is in fairness to Emerson, that he's been brought in now under Conte to play almost a right wing-back role, whereas under Nuno he came in to be a right-back. It's a completely different job, although you're on the right side. A lot more is expected of you. Therefore, at the moment, sure, we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt where the games are coming thick and fast. I think the biggest thing for Emerson at the moment is that he's devoid of any competition. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Doherty at the moment, I think we can all safely say, as any concerns about Emerson, I think Doherty, I think we'd all be keen to see him maybe go on and get regular first-team football. Do you think that what Emerson is craving for is almost that competition to, pardon a pun, spur him on? And what we understand is that Spurs are looking at a new right wing-back during this transfer window.
I think that's sad, the fact that we've only just signed him, and now all of us fans are talking about, you know, us signing a new one already.
Is that more down to Doherty, do you think, as well, Chris, because he hasn't really got that competition there?
Yeah, there's that as well. But of course, whatever chances to cross Emerson Royal has had, you know, they have been very, very poor. And when you can't beat a man, you know, no disrespect, you know, against Watford, you know, we've got Chelsea coming up 3 times this month. We've got a North London derby. You know, the quality is going to be far greater. So we are going to be expecting crosses to be delivered in the box and create real chances. But, you know, dare I say it, Serge Aurier, who we got rid of, I feel that under Antonio Conte's system, Serge Aurier would have fitted in perfectly well into this. I wasn't Serge Aurier's fan whatsoever. But when you look at the different system that we are playing now, he would have fitted in really well to this.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
You know, it's interesting. Conte said on the wing back, said we controlled the game. We have a lot of possession in that first half. I've seen the stats. We made 29 crosses. We have to improve in that last pass to have more quality, because the last pass means whether you score or not. I think, again, it's a good thing that we're seeing that Conte is recognising that, because I think we can all safely say under previous managers, we've let an area go and not strengthen it. And Chris, I know exactly what you mean. He's only been here a few weeks.
The thing is, with this current team at the moment, and we've spoken about that starting 11, that is Tottenham's strongest team at the moment.
Romero,
Romero will come in, obviously, but there is limitations with this team. But like I keep saying, the last 2 months, every single game, we can see individual players improving. So if Antonio Conte can keep improving players individually, game by game, and then get 1 or 2 additions in, you know, 2 months in, you know, where are we going to be in 6 months' time? Where are we going to be in a year's time? That's why I'm so excited about what this manager is doing at the club right now.
Yeah,
I agree, Chris, and certainly after, as most people know, I'm very glass half full as well. I'm actually usually glass overflowing, to be honest with you. But I agree. But I watched the Liverpool-Chelsea game today, which is probably a bad thing to do, because I at the end of it, I just felt, my God.
They're miles away from us.
They're miles away from that.
There is that huge gap. But of course, you know, 2 months ago, we weren't even having a shot on target. Antonio Conte, you know, said that he's not a magician, but in my opinion, these last 2 months, he has been a magician, and he's certainly turned the magic on. But this month is going to be extremely difficult. And at the end of this month, I think that he will really know where we are as a football club. And, you know, I'm hoping that Fabio Paratici, Daniel Levy, Steve Hitchen certainly do some business for him, do him proud, because, you know, if you give Antonio Conte the tools that he needs to get his job done, he will really take this club places.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the issue, is that we're starting so far behind. Even if we do move players forward and progress some, we're still going to be far behind. So whether that's to move them on, there's only so much he can do with the tools he's got, right?
Yeah.
Patience, isn't it? And that's one thing as fans. I think we all know Spurs. I mean, we've been patient for so many years, but under Conte, you can see that it is all coming together. Now, a player that, to be fair to him, over the last few weeks, last month, has played some really good football, and he was our match winner at the weekend, Pete, and that was Sanchez. He headed home powerfully from Son's free kick, and to be fair to Sanchez, he dealt with everything that came his way on the day. I think it's interesting, that celebration is almost like he knows that he's heard the criticism that's been coming from the Spurs fans, and it's almost like he said, well, there you go, I'm delivering, but he's scoring lots of goals. He could be the top scorer in the season if this carries on.
Yeah, he's having a superb run, and I think Simon mentioned earlier, the fact that playing in a settled back three, back five is going to make a big difference to players' confidence. They know what their colleagues are doing either side, and Sanchez, his distribution has always been a little bit iffy. I think that's one criticism that you could have of him, and you see that that's being worked on. I mean, that always helps as well when you've got midfielders who are actually looking for the ball from him and making space for him. But yeah, he's playing really well at the moment. You can't fault the guy for his attitude, his application. It will make an interesting decision if and when Romero is fit and available to play in the starting 11. Who he would replace in that back three. I think another one who I think has come on leaps and bounds in the past 5, 6, 7 games is Ben Davies. Playing in a role that he plays for Wales, left side centre back. Putting in a really good shift, and again, the strength is shown by the number of very few goals that we've conceded. You think we've only conceded, 4? I think in 8, and 2 of those were Liverpool.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's an interesting point there what Neil puts on the screen where he says, when Romero is fit, would you drop Sanchez straight away or wait for that mistake, which you'll eventually do? I mean, to be honest, Simon, coming over to you, Sanchez has looked one of the most assured players so far under Conte. And it's almost like with Mourinho, I mean, we know Mourinho got his back up from day one when he mentioned to him about Ajax and the Champions League, I think Europa League final, where he almost slated him from the moment he walked through the door. And his confidence, I mean, to be honest, found that Mourinho went through the floor. Now, I'll be honest with you, with Sanchez, again, we've seen there's been a number of rickets in him. Pardon the pun there. But do you honestly feel that for you, Simon, Sanchez under Conte will improve? Because there was a period before Conte coming in where he was almost one of the players, again, you think in January would have been straight out the door.
I mean, he's definitely improved. That wasn't hard, though. I think the bar was quite low with him. I will him to do well. I really hope he is the player that we thought he was with the money we spent on him. But he's got a mistake in him every game, whether that's the ball getting caught in his legs, whether that's him clearing the ball 60 foot directly above his own head. He's certainly not got a cultured pass in him. So yeah, listen, he pops up with the odd goal. But again, referencing that game this afternoon, you just don't see many mistakes in the top team. And I think he will make mistakes in games. And, whether you want your centre back making mistakes, that's a big call, right? But he's always got a mistake in him.
Yeah, it's again, whether I say at the moment, during this period where we've got a succession of run of games, whether, like I say, he continues to play him. But to be fair, I've got to say that with Sanchez so far in the last few weeks, there's definitely been, as you said, an improvement. Whether that's going to carry on over time is obviously another question, but a case of waiting and seeing. But a player that we need to talk about, who again was phenomenal yesterday. Again, this player at the moment, he has periods of 5 or 10 minutes where he's massively busy. Then he's quiet for the other 80, Chris, and that's Hugo Lloris. I know you're a massive fan of Hugo, and the first time he's called into action in 2022 was a brilliant full-length save to push away King's curling effort. I mean, that was heading goal-bound. And again, isn't it? I mean, when you think about Hugo, his saves this season, they've been when, to be fair, he's had a very, very quiet game, nothing really to do. Then there's a moment in which he's so decisive for where that game's going to go. And he's always provided the goods for Tottenham. How important is it that we get him tied down when we've heard the news today from Fabrizio Romano that Spurs are in talks with Hugo over a new contract?
It has to happen, Rick. It has to. Every goalkeeper that we're being linked with at the moment, nowhere near the quality of our captain, our leader our goalkeeper, incredible servant to the club. And most importantly, I know we've gone 40 minutes in without me mentioning the word trophy, but, almost 10 years at the club and not won a trophy. It's just madness. But, if anyone deserves a trophy at the club, it's him. He delivers game in, game out, and an incredible servant, as I said. And Tottenham have got to get this deal done. A 1 year or 2 year, they've got to get it done. But if I can just go back to talking about Sanchez, when we think back that Europa Conference League game against Mura away, most managers would have just put him to one side and said, you're not playing again. And I think a lot of Spurs fans thought that Sanchez would never be seen in a Spurs shirt again, would be sold in the January transfer window. And that, again, is full credit to our manager for turning a player like Sanchez around. Instead of binning him, he said, no, let's work with him and improve the player. And I'm really, really pleased for people like that, because when players are given opportunities, we said this time and time again on this channel in the last couple of years about players getting opportunities under different managers. When Antonio Conte has come in, he has said to everybody, everyone's got a clean slate. Do you want to play for this club? How are you going to react to me coming in? Are you going to be with me or not? You can see the likes of Dele Alli and Tanguy Ndombele. They're clearly not on this Antonio Conte project. A lot of the players have bought into it. As Simon said, Ben Davis and the likes of Harry Winks and co, they will buy into this. They will give 110% to Antonio Conte. So, again, this is why I'm so excited about the manager.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned again, Chris, bringing in Conte up there, because Pete, with Lloris, it seems that very much straight away Conte's come in, identify that Lloris is a leader and wants him to sign on for a couple of years. I find it baffling, and I know in your role, Pete, that you've obviously met the Spurs board on a number of occasions, how we've allowed Lloris's contract to get to where it has done, bearing in mind of just the commitment he's given to the club, where I'm absolutely in no doubt that there's been times for Lloris's reign here at Spurs where he's had some great offers to go and has still kept faith with Tottenham in periods where, let's be honest about it, the club haven't been in the Champions League, haven't been looking to push on as a football club. Do you think we've got to get this done, haven't we, for Lloris? He's so important to the team as a captain, as a leader of that change room, as we saw in the Amazon documentary. You feel it's absolutely imperative we get this done sooner rather than later?
I agree. I think circumstances have changed, obviously, through Mourinho and Sanchez. My understanding is that Hugo has always expressed an intention that at the end of his contract he was going to go back to Nice, which is why he hasn't signed anything since. I think in the last couple of months it's probably opened his eyes to yet again what could be achieved with the current squad with some additions, and that may make him think twice and long and hard about that. Because basically from yesterday he's now a free agent to negotiate a new contract to start in the summer. I think it would be a big loss if we didn't persuade him to sign for another year. Galini, from what I've seen, could become a great goalkeeper. I haven't seen a great deal of evidence of that in the few times I've seen him play. I think it would be key to the club to try and get something done. And it's really in Hugo's hands now, whether he'd be prepared to sign for another year. Maybe get through against Chelsea, get to a final. That might persuade him. The trophy that we've all been after will be Cup. If we were to win that might change his mind. I hope it does for the club's sake.
Absolutely. Just interesting, Simon. You look at the fact that Lloris can now talk to, I think, foreign clubs and also almost reach a pre-agreement with them if he wants to join them. I just find it staggering that we've allowed it to get to that. I know Pete obviously says about Nice, but Lloris has been one of the most dedicated performers in this Spurs side for a number of years. I think we could also say there's been times where he himself could have won Player of the Year, and we've given it to the likes of Son or a Kane. How pivotal is it, Simon, that we do get him tied down? Because you feel that bringing another goalkeeper in, and I've always said this about Lloris, I know in the past he's been criticised, but you never realise how good a goalkeeper is until they go. And I just think Spurs trying to find their position for Lloris now. We've seen Galini so far. I think what I can say about Galini is he's got this fantastic stare of watching the ball go past him. It's a wonderful stare what he does. And that concerns me because I don't want to see that too often. And I think Lloris, is so, well, at the moment, suited to the way Conte wants his team to be. I know there's been certain sections and murmurings thinking that long term, if Conte wants to play out from the back, whether Lloris can do that. But for now, where Tottenham want to go, surely Lloris signing is the most logical pathway.
Yeah, we've had enough to worry about over the last 10 years. Imagine if we'd had to worry about a goalkeeper as well. Like having that stability at the back, without that, it would have been a total nightmare. And I think that it was pivotal in 17-18 when we were knocking on the door of big things. I think it massively helped us that he won a World Cup, to be honest. He got his hands on silverware. And I think the fact he did that probably meant he stopped, he stopped looking, or he was looking elsewhere for a club. But I think if a player wins a World Cup, they probably aren't so fussed as everyone else about winning trophies domestically. So that's probably helped us. Is he still France #1? Is he still a French captain? So he'll be the captain. Will he be captain of the World Cup?
As far as we understand, he will be.
Yeah, so I think he probably doesn't need the disruption. I mean, it probably makes sense from a number of levels to remain at the club. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't sign a new deal. Probably a 1 year. I doubt we'll give me 2 years, but I think it'll definitely be a 1 year.
Yeah, I think the murmurings at the moment will be just that extra year until 2023. I mean, just to put on Lloris's performance on a whole there, we saw it was a big shout for a penalty, but if you look at that again in a replay, Lloris seemed to get a hand to the ball in a challenge with Pedro. Wonderful save. And Lloris, again, after the game, Conte went on to say that you can see the level of your keeper in those circumstances when for the whole game, he didn't have to make a save, but he continues to be so focused, to be focused for the team. That is very important to me. Hugo showed he's top. He's always focused. He's very important for me. I'm sure that in the short term, they can find a solution with the club over his contract because he loves Tottenham and Tottenham love him. And again, let's hope Lloris does sign on and, of course, does get that new contract. Now, we saw a moment in that game where there was an emergency, unfortunately with an issue in the crowd, which thankfully the fan was stable. Yellow card for Skipp later on that game after holding back Pedro. And I think, to be fair, the way that game was going towards the end, there was just a real concern that we just wasn't going to get the goal. But like we said, Sanchez did get Spurs over the line. And again, of course, with a game, there's a makeup of so many players where you look at certain performances. Eric Dyer, he kept the ball moving forward whenever he could and defended well on the whole. Chris, I know we've kind of touched upon this already, but when Spurs do have their available centre-backs ready, with Romero coming back in, Joe Roden, to be fair to Joe Roden, hasn't really had a sniff, where Conte's confirmed he is behind Eric Dyer in that pecking order. Who do you think, Chris, will be his preferred centre-backs when everybody is fit?
It's funny. Every single Tottenham Hotspur manager always seems to favour and love Eric Dyer. So I think that it will be the same on this occasion. I think Dyer, Davis and Romero will be his three. But interestingly, what you said about the break of play there with the medical emergency, because after the game, walking back to the car from the ground, a number of Watford fans believe that they lost that game because of that break of play. That break of play ruined their momentum, ruined what they had going, and they genuinely believe that is why we won the game. I tend to agree, really. I think that actually helped us, that break of play. But that killer cross from Heung-min Son at the end, as I said right at the start, I was never in doubt that Tottenham were going to get the 3 points, and there just feels like that feel again of Pochettino, where we can run until the very, very last minute. And as I said at the start, and as I keep saying, and really, bigging up Antonio Conte, he is demanding on that touchline constantly. If you're one of the players, you'd be scared stiff to put a foot wrong, because he is constantly shouting, constantly demanding. And that's what I love about our manager, because us as fans, we're constantly doing that. We're constantly shouting at the pitch. We're constantly shouting at the TV, for players to do things. And now when we see a manager doing that constantly, that is why we love him so much. But to go back to your original question, Romero has got to come in this team. One of the, if not the best defender at the club right now. So it's good that we've got options again. And Antonio Conte must love that.
Yeah.
Is Romero due back this week? Is Romero
we know
due
he's back in.
this week?
Well, we know he's back in training. So I don't know whether he'd play him against Chelsea. I mean, I would expect you to think this month we're playing Chelsea 3 times and we've got Arsenal sandwich in as well. I'll be amazed if he isn't back for one of those games. But I mean, I think the argument would probably be, Simon, if we've got 5 clean sheets out of the last 8, and I know the opposition apart from Liverpool has been maybe inferior. Do you bring him back straight away? Do you need to bring him back? I mean, there'll be an argument about maybe people say yes because it's Romero and because of the level of what he can defend. But then again, we are disrupting the defence. Listen, he's been signed for that reason. He's one of the best defenders. We arguably believe he's going to be obviously across Europe. That's why we've signed him. I think Spurs will, you would believe, try and get him into one of those Chelsea games. Whether he goes to Stamford Bridge, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a big game to push him back into. I'm not.
I don't know. I think they'll unleash Lukaku on Wednesday night, and I worry for Sanchez. I would, with all due respect to Sanchez, I would a fresh Romero. Yeah, you've got. I think I just feel a bit more comfortable.
It depends on that. Do we think he is fresh, or is match fitness key here? I don't know whether. For me, I think if he had 45 minutes against Watford and then it was Chelsea, I'd feel a bit safer. My only concern is, do you just bring him into a game like that? I think that game is going to be played at such a high intensity because Chelsea need the result. We're going to come on that shortly. It's going to be interesting to see what he does do on Romero, of course. But Pete, Ben Davies, listen, I'm criticised a lot on this channel for not giving Ben Davies a high rating. So, again, Ben Davies, 7.5 out of 10. I think he was, again, great. You know, people are going to say to me 8 or 9. Ben Davies is doing the job at the moment. You know, I've always said Ben Davies for me, reliable, dependable, but never really gets forward. And he's getting forward and he's playing really well. And to be fair to me, he tried to support Reguilon down the down the left whenever he could. But again, Pete, you know, Davies solid. He's playing, as we said, that Azpilicueta role that, of course, Conte had him at Chelsea. And he's doing it really well, isn't he?
He is, yeah, superb. You know, it suits him so much more than playing the left of a back four. He can read a game. He can take his time and let Reggie go forward and cover him. So, as experienced as a left back, it works well when there's an attack that breaks down. He's got great cover, and that relationship that the three of them at the back have made over the past 4 or 5 games, you know, is clearly paying fruit. I think, you know, going back to talking about Romero, I think it's unlikely he'll be in for Chelsea. I think it's more likely he'll start against Morecambe.
Yeah, that might not be a bad game to bring back in for.
Yeah. And then give him 45, 60 minutes of that to see, you know, get his match fitness up. And then the question is, do you use him in either the second leg against Chelsea or in the league game? We've also got the North London derby coming up as well. Yeah. So, yeah, Davis, it'd be, well, that back 5 would be, without any better option at right wing back, would be on my team sheet for Wednesday night. I wouldn't change anything for Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think on the basis that there's always okay, if the worst does happen, Lukaku comes along and rips them to pieces. Yeah, we've got another chance in the second leg. Assuming they're not out of sight, that is, of course.
No, I think, again, it's always, I mean, we are going to come on to Chelsea. I know Chelsea is very dominant at the moment in terms of the talk here because it's such a massive game. I think it's a case of making sure we're still alive come that second leg. And if we can take the lead over there, listen, that would be amazing. One player I think we can all hopefully safely say we want to start, and hopefully will be starting, Simon, that's Oliver Skipp, who he made a terrific signing interception to set Kane away for a chance on that opening half hour. Worked so hard, and we took a yellow card for the team to stop Pedro before being replaced by Winks with 20 minutes to go. I just wonder again, being replaced with 20 minutes to go, maybe that is with an eye potentially on that Chelsea game, because you do feel when Skipp is in the middle of the park for us, he gives us so much drive, determination, energy. And again, you know, if we're looking for a creative midfielder, for me, that's going to be to play alongside Skippy, because I think he's just so imperative for the team, where I think he almost has become, for me, one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, I agree. I think Conte likes him. I think he's best improved player this season. Even with under Nuno, I think he was making significant signs of improving. But yeah, I think he's good. I think he's got a cheeky smile. I think he doesn't get he goes in quite hard, but I think referees quite like him. There was that shocking decision, wasn't there, yesterday, with regards to whether they should have been given an advantage that was pulled back for a free kick where he yanked someone back. But no, I agree. I think I wouldn't say he's first on the team sheet, but I'd say he's sort of third or fourth on the team sheet.
You know, I mean, coming over to you, Chris, I know you're a big fan of Skipp. I mean, is he now, in your eyes, Chris, almost one of those undroppable names on the team sheet? He's become that imperative to this Spurs side?
100%. And as I've said on this show many times, watching Oliver Skipp as a 17-year-old at Stevenage in the under-23s, and Peter will tell you, I often see Pete over there watching the under-23s. He was a cut above the rest at 17 years old, and that loan move away at Norwich last year has just done him the world of good. And, you think back a couple of months under Nuno Espirito Santo, there were lots of rumours going around that we were going to be sending Oliver Skipp out on loan. What a great season he is having at Spurs so far, and to keep the likes of Dele Alli, Tongi Ndombele and co out of the team, I think that just says a lot about him.
Pete, it sounds like you're a big fan of Skippy. I mean,
what
else can you tell us?
Very much so. He's got a brilliant engine, box to box. He, as Chris said, stood out head and shoulders in that under-23 side, even at the very young age of 17, 18. And we have other players coming through. There's a guy called Harvey White who's very, very good, similar, probably even tougher than Skippy. Quite an abrasive player. Young lad, I think he's 17, maybe 18. So there's one for the future. But it's wonderful that guys from the academy can make it all the way through. There's some real talent there. Not all of them are ever going to make it with us, but will have a great career in the game with other teams. I'm hoping that Dylan Markandy will break through at some time. Hopefully he might get some game time next Sunday against Morecambe as well. Really good prospect.
It's great to talk about. We've got a number of really good players coming through. And again, Skipp being a homegrown player, listen, we love that. We always love players coming through the ranks. His midfield partner, as I touched upon and read the show, Højbjerg, sent a half volley over the crossbar in that first half, edge of the Watford box. I've seen a lot of criticism saying he didn't really offer much going forward. And I must just say this now about Højbjerg, because it's driving me a little bit insane that Højbjerg, I don't think, was ever brought in to be an attacking midfielder. He was never brought in to be a number 8. I can't understand where that notion is coming from about him not providing the creativity when Chris, this is exactly the reason why we bought Lo Celso and Ndombele in for. Can you understand it? I'm racking my brains to understand why he's getting so much criticism. For me, he's one of the leaders in that changing room. Maybe not as a first team player, but certainly as a squad member. I don't think we're above Højbjerg standard now, are we?
No. I don't know why people keep wanting creativity from the likes of Oliver Skipp and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. They are not in the team for that. If you ask Antonio Conte, are these creative midfielders? He will clearly say no. They are not goal-scoring midfielders. They are not there to create. They are, as Crackers has said on this show many times, Højbjerg is like a dustman. He is there just to clear up all of the mess and, give the ball out to one of the more creative players. I don't understand particularly when we win games as well, how critical a lot of us fans can be about individual players. And, for me, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is a real leader on the pitch. And I'd be sorry to see him out of the side, actually, when that does happen, if it does happen.
Yeah, again, it's interesting. In the comments here, there's so many diversity of opinions. We'll get this one here on the screen from Paul Mark, who says, with a number of games, we'll have to rotate. So we're lucky to now have 4 top-class centre-backs. Paul, I love your belief there. 4 top-class centre-backs. He says, I think Conte will play Højbjerg ahead of Skipp. What do you think of that, Simon? For you, Højbjerg, can you understand the criticism of him when, for me, he's almost been asked to do a role that it's not his game. He's not an attacking midfielder. He never has been, and I think ever will be. I know he played slightly for Denmark.
He it very well. I mean, it's actually what I was trying to say earlier on, in that the system we're playing, the faults of the wing backs are now shining on, unfortunately, Højbjerg. That's not the job he's being asked to do. So, yeah, I think he does win the ball and move it on. He shuffles around horizontally, but that's what his job is. He's cleaning up, isn't he, in the middle? I mean, he's missed 1 game since he joined the club.
Been phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
Just incredible. But also just having him at the club, I don't know how Ndombele can look him in the eyes. I mean, the way that he's charging around the field.
Yep.
I can't imagine they get on, can they, in training or in the changing room? Like, what must they be? Yeah, goodness, I don't know. What must they think of each other?
I mean, Pete, with regards to Højbjerg, do you understand the criticism there from certain supporters that feel, for whatever reason, the ability is not enough?
I think one thing that you've got to remember is to get 74% possession in a football match, you have to win the ball back. And one of the strongest elements of the game against Watford was the fact that we won the ball back so efficiently and quickly. Okay, you can criticise what we did with it once we got it back, but Højbjerg is so key to that role. Now, the other thing you've got to bear in mind is, again, when you're so dominant in possession and you're playing against the back 8-9 that Watford had, he's not the man who's going to unlock the defence. He's probably a luxury, having won the ball back. His job, as I think was mentioned, that sort of Crackers talks about, is that he gives it to someone who can create something. That's his role.
Yeah.
So in a game where you've got 74% possession, you've achieved that because of Højbjerg. But then subsequently, he's not the one who's going to create the 40-yard through ball. Well, it's extremely unlikely he's going to place a 40-yard through ball. You don't do that against a packed defence.
Yeah, I must say though, I think overall, and Spurs sabotage it on here on the screen, is that I think we all know is that when you're going to play Skipp and Højbjerg together, are you going to get much creativity? They're two players that, Skipp does provide drive, determination, energy, in terms of the offer he gives in terms of running up and down the pitch. And Højbjerg, as we've discussed, is a player that breaks up play, wins the ball back. And I think the problem is that you're finding is a lot of people are getting on the backs of the lack of creativity, but they're targeting at the wrong people. This is what Ndombele and Lo Celso were brought in to do. And neither of them are doing it. We've got Lo Celso, who can't keep fit, who seems to always be available for Argentina, not available for Tottenham. And Ndombele, which, as we understand, to be fair to Conte, he was a massive fan of Ndombele when he was at Inter Milan, wanted to take him. And I think it says it all that he's worked with him for now, 8 weeks? And he's played a couple of games under him at most, if I'm being honest with you. I mean,
the thing is, though, it's about trust, isn't it? And we've all seen, and Antonio Conte has even come out and said, he's got to trust these players. Højbjerg and Skipp, you can trust. Lo Celso and Ndombele, as you just said, you cannot trust. And Simon made the great point. If you're training, imagine in that training centre, Ndombele against Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. It is like chalk and cheese. Someone giving 110% every week and one player giving hardly anything. It is so different. So it's all about trust. It is all about game by game and making sure that we are putting the best possible 11 out.
Yeah. Totally agree. Harry Winks, we've discussed him brief in this game, but he replaced Skipp for the final 20 minutes. And I'll be fair again to Winks. He worked really hard when he came on, did have a bit of bites at midfield and provided full momentum. And, again, a player that at the moment is working his way back into that Spurs team. Nice to see him make an appearance. Lo Celso came on for the final 10 minutes. The Spurs looked to obviously keep hold of the ball. That was his first appearance since Conte's first league game in charge since November. Pete, let's come to you. Lo Celso, does he still have a future in your opinion under Antonio Conte, or would you be a player that you'd be looking to move on ahead of this, in this January transfer window?
Let's put it this way. If I'm sitting there at the board table and I'm Daniel Levy and I've spent all that money on Lo Celso and on Ndombele, I'm not going to sell them both because people are not going to pay what we paid for them, or however much we still owe for them.
Very good point.
More importantly,
I
think of the two, Lo Celso, if we can get him fit and keep him fit, is the one to keep. I think Ndombele is the one with the poor attitude, and I think we ought to ship him out. And again, if I was Daniel, I'd look to take a loss on that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even loan him, but to find someone who want to take him at top dollar, 40 mil, 50 mil, I think is extremely unlikely, to be honest with you.
It's a fair point.
One of the things that Daniel's always said to us, he wouldn't talk about individuals, but he said you do realise how difficult it is to sell a player on or move a player on who doesn't want to be moved. They're sitting on a tidy contract. They're only going to go if the financial terms and the move to the specific club is right for them. and they have all the cards in that situation. So it's not as easy as people think. We can get rid of X, Y, and Z, especially in the January window where there's probably going to be so little work done, because people are so. Even the buying clubs are so concerned, are they getting rid of this guy because he's got long COVID, for example, is a question mark I'm sure everybody would ask themselves.
We must make that point as well, like you just said there, Pete, that I think people forget what Ndombele and Lo Celso are on here in terms of wages. And Ndombele came in as the club's record signing. So you'd imagine, and I see Chris on there as well, that guy is on upwards of, alongside Harry Kane, on par with Harry Kane in terms of what he's earning at the club. You've even got Lo Celso that was brought in, I think, for the second highest amount. I think, of course, when you look at the way that fee was structured. So it's about two players that are on a very, very high salary. And again, with Spurs, they're not going to be looking to offload those players without those wages being covered, Chris.
But the managers have got to get something out of these players, because when we talk about both of those players, nearly £100 million, and Pete's exactly right, because these players on these contracts, it's rumoured that Ndombele is on £200,000 a week. What player is going to say, oh, actually, yeah, I'm not going to get any game time here at Tottenham, I'll go elsewhere? They've got it so cushy, a lot of these players, being paid good amounts of money, great training facilities, you go into a great stadium every other week. Me personally, if I was a professional footballer, I'd want to be playing every week. I'd give 100%. I can't understand as a fan, someone who goes to see the club home and away every game. I want to see Ndombele's magic every single week. He's been very inconsistent. Lo Celso has been very inconsistent. Yes, he's had injury problems as well. But it's about time that both of these players knuckled down and gave, us fans something to cheer about, because I just think it's £100 million, wasted money.
Yeah.
Just quickly on that, and I completely agree. On the system that we're playing, how do we get them in? What happens? Do we take out Skipp? Do we take out Højbjerg? I just don't know, because obviously that's the thing. We're saying, right, we've got to get the most out of them. Mm. It's just suddenly you're stuck in no man's land because you don't trust the manager, doesn't trust them. They don't fit the system, so you can't put them in the shop window.
It's a great point, Simon, because I think that if you play both of them, and a lot of fans wanted both of them in the centre of our midfield, I don't think either of them give you a lot of defensive work. When you think of what Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg does, we call him the dustman, clearing up all of the mess. Lo Celso and Ndombele are not those types of players. Far from it.
I would say the only thing I would say with Lo Celso is that I did see a willingness at the back end of the Mourinho era where he did track back, but I'm not suggesting anywhere near that's the level of what we've seen from Højbjerg or Skipp. But I just concern myself that if we're Chris going to play with this particular team against the likes of the Chelseas, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Cities, I don't think we're going to be good enough to create enough chances. So I think at some point we are going to have to just tweak that midfield. I think we are going to have to.
You have to play five in the middle. You have to play five in midfield. The whole system has to change. Conte is just probably. I can't see him doing that.
The only thing is as well, what I'd say is, if we'd done a video today of Ndombele's and Lo Celso's best bits at Spurs, how long do you think it would be?
Couple of minutes, 2.5 minutes max.
That long?
Not even that. Well, that's with replays. It's a really tricky one because I know all of us, when Ndombele came here, there was such an excitement. We're all saying, pay the money with Lo Celso, pay the money. I mean, I'll never quite understand if it was the case that we turned down Bruno Fernandes for Lo Celso. If we did that, then, I mean, honestly, mentally, that's still going to really churn away at me. But Lucas Moura, obviously, again, back in the side, playing with direct running, but without much of the end product. But listen, he played a lovely chip passing to Son, who was unlucky to not put Spurs one up beforehand. Do want to chat upon Harry Kane quickly, guys. Kane, he took a lovely first touch and turned in the 19th minute, curled a shot wide of the keeper's goal. With Kane at the moment, I don't know if you feel, Pete, is he still at that maximum level? We saw him score 3 games in a row. Great chance for Kane there to score. Is he back to his best, Harry Kane, for you now?
If you'd have asked me that game after the Palace game, I'd have said yes. He looked revitalised, having had a week and a bit off. But again, when you're in the middle of a packed defence against Southampton and Watford, there's very little that he can do apart from, stick on the shoulder of the last defender and make his moves and his runs in a very, very tight area. And then it's requirement for the other players to try and find him, whoever's got the ball, which is much easier if you're breaking, as we've done in the past. Sonny can pick him out, Lucas can pick him out. I think I've seen signs that he's, I won't say back to 100%, but yeah, something. King Aldell's just commented there, 80%. I'd agree with that. I don't see him any better than that. I think he's very tired. I think his body needs a rest. And going back to what was said earlier, I'm just hoping that he doesn't break down in time for the Super Bowl, as he tends to do every year.
Again, it's the case, isn't it, Pete? Though, when you look at this window, if we don't come out this window, and I know obviously I've got to not push you on this too much because of your obviously you're standing on it. But as a board, if we do not get in an alternative to striker as Harry Kane, I mean that is, for me, that's criminal, isn't it? You can't expect the guy to be playing week in, week out between now and the end of the season, surely.
How many windows have we said that though?
I know. Well,
happened.
Yeah.
Why should this window be any different?
Well, because I'd like to think Conte's here, and I think I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you why. I think Nuno was a pushover, and Nuno couldn't believe he got the job, and therefore I think he was just excited to have the job, number one. But I think with Conte coming in, I'm sure he would be given some insurances there that listen, one striker, no matter who you're managing for Conte, it's not going to be enough. And Dane Scarlett, bless him, he's he's at an age where we still, because of the Premier League restriction, we can't even send him out on loan. And you can see with Dane Scarlett, bless him, he's still quite a way away from the first team. We surely have to win this window, Pete. Surely with a striker, no?
Stop calling me Shirley. That's what I'd say. I really don't think there's a player out there. I think we struck lucky with what's his name? The Spanish guy, Llorente.
Yeah.
Really struck lucky with him in that he was prepared to play second fiddle. And he was a similar sort of striker to Harry, maybe not as mobile, but still very similar and scored very important goals for us. And to a lesser extent, Gareth Bale. But I can't think of anybody around who's not a current first team player who would relish a move to become a backup to Harry Kane. I don't think there's anybody. I mean, you could probably look in the Championship and maybe pick one of the up and coming players. This the guy, I can't remember his name, who's been knocking the goals in for Blackburn this season. Maybe a big offer there.
I'm seeing a lot of excitement at this, Pete. People are getting carried away now. They're going out buying all these Blackburn shirts for this Championship striker.
He's got a good name though.
Let me just hold it. Let me just hold them back. Yeah. We've gone from Vlahovic to, but that would be Tottenham. That would be Tottenham.
This window though has to be different because we've got Antonio Conte. You would hope and think that he has been given assurances. And I tell you what, I know what Peter means because Rick, we've discussed on this channel so many times, in all these transfer windows, saying about not getting a striker. It has to happen.
I'm just trying to imagine that Conte. I'm just trying to imagine Conte with Diaz from Blackburn with the shirt. I'm just trying to imagine that. Here we go. There's your striker.
Yeah, I love hearing these. Oh yeah, but Conte will have got assurances. Do
you not think he has, though, Pete?
I've sat across that boardroom table and I've been assured by Daniel of certain things that have proven not to be the case. I wouldn't play poker with Daniel, and as much as I like the guy, I'll take everything with a pinch of salt that he tells me.
Yeah. For the fear of calling Pete Shirley one more time, I'm going to come around to you, Simon, just on this. I just fail to believe that we're going to come out of this window and not have another striker. I just can't comprehend that. I mean, bearing in mind that, we had Carlos Vinicius, bless him, who, to be fair to his goal ratio, I think he's unlucky to have not earned maybe another loan move to Tottenham because I think the argument I was going to say is, again, I refer to it, Pete, I think with Nuno, he couldn't believe he got the job. Therefore, I think you could be a pushover with him and say to him, you're just going to have to deal with Harry Kane. But I think with Conte coming in, I'm sure one of the first things he would have said is looking at this squad, and he'd done his evaluation very, very early on. He must have thought, Kane has that ankle injury in him every single season. There is no way I can contend with one senior striker at this football club all season, surely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very. I mean, obviously, there's the the excitement and hope around Harry Kane potentially signing a new contract. I think that has relevance to this discussion around a striker. I think, and if you believe what you read, that's an ongoing thing that's happening in this January. I think. Look, Conte's come in. He's shored up the defence. It's plain for everyone to see that he's done a very good job at the club. We've stopped conceding goals, but we're still not scoring goals. So I think he can very easily turn around to Levy and say, look, this is the situation. I do need a striker. And he was given assurances. Now, if Daniel Levy goes back on his word, then I think we've got a problem because Tottenham need Conte a lot more than Conte needs Tottenham.
Absolutely.
There's some very big jobs coming up,
Absolutely.
notably one up in Manchester at the end of the season, probably. That would be an obvious fit. So I think, and if Poch goes to Manchester, there's a big job in Paris. So look, I think we have to be very, very careful about what happens with Conte over the coming months or weeks. But yeah, if we don't get a striker, I do think there'll be a problem between the chairman and the manager.
Yeah. Heung-min Son, I mean, to be fair, against Sonny this game, struggling to make an impact. And I don't want to go too much on Son because we've spoken about Son at length in the last few shows. But I will say with Son, admittedly, there was a lot of poor service in that game. So therefore, it's very hard to judge Son on that basis. But he did have a great chance with 15 minutes to go, saved by Backman. But I will give credit to Son for that free kick. Great delivery for that goal towards the end. Because, listen, as great as the header was from Sanchez, it's all about the delivery from Sonny. And it was superb. And I think, again, that may be echoes why Son is on the pitch to 96 minutes on the clock and helps us get the win. Bryan Gil replacing Lucas for the final couple of minutes. Chris, we'll start with you on Gil very quickly. Do you think he'll be a player that Spurs will maybe look to loan out in this window to give him some game time? Or do you think with the games we've got to come, the Morecambes of this world and potentially what else is to come in this season, he will get a run out in this second half of the season with Tottenham?
Yeah, again, as I said about Emerson Royale, when you're talking about loaning out a player who we've just bought, spent a lot of money on him, and plus Lamela went in the other direction.
Yep.
I would hope that he would get a lot of game time in cup competitions such as the FA Cup. Hopefully, we can go far in that. But when you look at this team, and we've discussed this strongest possible 11 that played yesterday, you're asking them to play in 3 games against Chelsea this month, in the North London derby as well. I know we can rotate in the Morecambe game, and hopefully all 11 players can drop out and a new 11 come in. But it's a big ask. 3 Chelsea games, 1 Arsenal game, 4 intense games. It's a lot to ask. So I'm hoping if Tottenham do any transfer business, it is done early January rather than waiting, the 28th, 29th, 31st of January. We don't want that. And I completely 100% agree with you, Rick. I'd be devastated if we don't get a striker in this transfer window because I know Pete says, don't know who's available, but that's not our job. We're fans. It's Fabio's job now to identify the players that are available to possibly come in. So I'm hoping that he can do some magic.
Well, I'm going with Pete now. I want to go buy that Diaz Blackburn shirt. Can you come and sign it for me, Pete, as well, yeah?
Yeah,
I'll get one of those. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. That's what I'm going to wait for. 31st of January till midnight, and that's what comes out. Unbelievable. Anyhow, Conte, Happy New Year. Let's come out to you, Simon, on Bryan Gil, because I think it's fair to say this is a difficult time at Spurs. He's come in. Nuno obviously went. Conte's come in. You'd probably say, listen, for him, it's an upgrade of a manager who's going to hopefully learn from. What do you feel disappointed so far, Simon, that he hasn't had more game time, or is it just a case of where he's young? He needs to, I think, bulk up in the gym. My personal view on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's going to be given chances. As I said, he came in against Southampton, and you could see the other players trust him because every time they could get him, they used him to put the ball in the box or try to put the ball in the box. He had a good shot, which down at Southampton, where arguably that could have gone in, to be honest. Look, again, we've said Morecambe definitely will play in that game, probably play the next FA Cup game. I don't see him starting in the near future, to be honest. I don't know where he would play, to be honest with you. We've spoken about that midfield. He doesn't feel like a ready replacement for Lucas or Son either. So I think, in the system we have, I don't see where he fits in. 5 across in midfield, potentially, yes, but Yeah, I mean, I hope he's given an opportunity. As you said, he looks quite lightweight, but he's definitely got skills on the ball. But yeah, at the moment, a sub at best.
Yeah. Pete, coming over to you, I promise I'm not going to interrogate you as much on Bryan Gil as Harry Kane. What do you think the future holds for Gil in a Spurs shirt?
I think he'll be with us. I see a very good prospect there. I think some of the comments that are made, his international appearances, he's getting rave reviews. There's no reason we can't do it for us. It would be in place of either Sonny or Lucas. So, he's got some big boots to fill there. But no, I can see him being a really sound prospect for the future.
Yeah. I think, like I say, when you look at the games you've got coming up, and you probably say Morecambe is the standout one at the moment, you'd probably say there's an opportunity there for him. And again, I think it all depends on, I know we always say this, that if we were to progress in the FA Cup and then we get Arsenal or we get a United or a Chelsea, do we then just say, yeah, we'll put Gil in the cup competitions? I think it's a very difficult balancing act for Tottenham. We all want to see the club progress so far, Chris, in the cup competitions. We all want to sit here and say, keep them for this window. But if we do draw one of the big ones in the FA Cup, are we all going to be saying, start Gil?
Well, it depends if we've won the League Cup by then, which I'm sure, if we do, then, we won't be that bothered, will we? The trophy will be in the bank, and then it's all about, chasing that top 4 spot.
I like it. Well, that's a perfect segue into our next part of the show. So for our listeners on audio, we are going to go for our final break of the show. Taking this break, you're going to hear from Chidge, the Stanford Chidge from the Chelsea podcast, who very kindly gives us his thoughts ahead of this game. Of course, they're coming straight off the back of a fresh 2-2 draw against Liverpool. It was a really exhilarating first half. And I just hope, guys, going into this game that that has taken a lot out of Chelsea. Because first half, it was played at such an extreme intensity level where I think, quite frankly, the second half, the come down to that, you could just see the energy level starting to come down. And I think it's fair to say there's been so much noise around Chelsea over the last week, with Lukaku coming out with a sensational story saying, for his perspective, that he's not happy with the system at Chelsea. He then listed off that clubs that he would have liked to have joined, the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. I think Barcelona were on there. So he kind of puts Chelsea fourth in that list, when in the summer he said they were his first choice. So the most bizarre time where Chelsea at the moment are on a run where they've just won 3 of their last 9 league games. I mean, coming over to you, Simon, to start. I know I've got to be careful saying this now because I might get memed and been screenshotted here, but is this not a perfect time to play Chelsea under this pressure?
I've been saying that for the last 72 hours to some friends, and I know they all think I'm mad. But yeah, look, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think that Chelsea deal with their problems quite quickly. They usually deal with it in quite a ruthless way, and they move on and they fail fast. And I think, I watching that game earlier, I was when the second Liverpool goal went in, I was dancing around the living room, and then they fell fast. At half time they came back, and that was that. Before half time they came back. I think the Lukaku mess would have been dealt with by end of play today. I think he'll be playing against us on Wednesday, and he'll be a handful. So yeah, that's the one thing they do there, is that they move on quickly from their mistakes. And listen, it's the club I don't like the most. It's the game I love the most. I love going over there. It's just such good energy. It's an electric atmosphere. It is a good time to play them, but I think we have to be. If they put their best 11 out, it's going to be a draw. Will be a massive result for us.
Just interesting, Pete, coming into this. As things stand, it depends obviously on where you perceive this to be. Lukaku, he's unlikely to feature after that unauthorised interview, but I think many wouldn't be surprised if he does start, bearing in mind the energy levels of Chelsea in that second half. But we know Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Andrews Christensen, Ruben Loftus-Cheek are all ruled out. Timo Werner will hope to recover in time. Is this a good time, Pete, to play Chelsea, in your opinion?
I think, as Simon says, I think it is a good time to play them, but it's still going to be one of the toughest matches of the season, because the starting 11 they put out and their bench will want to do really well against us. They always do. Their crowd will be up for it, and the players will be up for it. So I think they have weaknesses, as Liverpool showed this afternoon. It was a little bit unfortunate. I walked the dog at 37 minutes when Liverpool were 2-0 up. And as I was walking around the garden, Chelsea scored twice. So I did expect a second half of more goals, but understandably, I think, as you said, the energy levels did peter out a little bit. And I think both teams, in the end, although Chelsea probably finished the stronger, both teams were still going for it second half. Apart from Lukaku, I think there's something else wrong at Chelsea, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. Something not quite right there. I know they've had a lot of problems with illness and injury. Something's going on there. No idea what it is, but it's not just Lukaku. I think has got a beef there at the moment. So I think, it's a good time to play them, but we're going to have to be at the top of our game.
So something's coming to mind there, Pete, when you went there. You went, something's going wrong there. Chelsea 4, Tottenham Hotspur 0. Full time.
Yeah, we all know it. I mean, we've been Spurs supporters for too long to realise.
To be honest, they must be saying it's a bad time to play us, right?
You would think
Antonio Conte,
it's
undefeated. They must think that, presumably.
Yeah,
got to.
You would think so. I mean, Chris, what do you think? I mean, you're always quite rational on these things. You know, I know there'll be an air of confidence, but at the same time, we can't forget Chelsea are a side that, you know, Simon, you picked up on there. They were 2-0 down in the first half. They've come back to level before half time. I think that just shows you the character they've got within the players. Forget the manager for a second. They've regrouped as players in that first half. They're going 2-0 down. Their star striker has spoken out about how unhappy he is, but yet they've showed such determination to get back level before the half hour, before the half time. So we can't take them lightly, can we?
Absolutely not. It's never a good time to play them, particularly at Stamford Bridge. Back in 2018 was the first time that we won a game there in 28 years. I absolutely hate going to Stamford Bridge. It's one of the worst places that I go. Absolutely hate the fans, hate the atmosphere. I hate everything about it. You know, to win there, you know, when we did in 2018 was probably one of the best days of my days supporting Spurs. It was an incredible day, and I want to feel like that again. But we know it's going to be very hard. They are the European champions. You don't become the European champions, you know, for being a poor team. And, you know, they've got a world-class manager. They've got world-class players. As we saw today, they went 2-0 down. They come back into the game, scored 2 incredibly good goals as well. Lukaku, yes, they've got problems, but I have absolutely no doubt that in the next 24 hours, an apology of some kind will probably come out. It'll be his game to return, and he will probably have a blinding game. But we need to be on top of our game. You know, we found it hard to break Watford down yesterday. The game against Chelsea on Wednesday is going to be extremely difficult. But you know, we haven't won a trophy since 2008. So I'm really hoping that this is our year. And with Antonio Conte, I'm going to, big him up yet again. With him, I feel confident going into the game. And I must say that I do feel a lot more confident that this is a 2-leg tie. Now, when the draw was made and there were murmurs going around saying that it could have been 1 leg, I was worried about that because I thought if we just played Chelsea away for 1 leg, I'd be worried. But the fact that it is 2 legs, get them back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and get the job done there. If we can get away with a draw Wednesday night, I think it would be a great result. So hopefully this is our year, and hopefully Antonio Conte can finally get Tottenham over the line and we can lift a trophy at Wembley.
Chris, I must ask you a tough question. You're not going to like what I'm going to ask you here. You mentioned about the Delhi win at the Bridge, and I know this man is deep close to your heart, Pochettino. Are you more confident going to the Bridge now under Conte than you was with Pochettino at that time? Bearing in mind when you think about the battle of the Bridge and how reckless he was that night, and although how proud he was of the players, do you feel more confident going there under Conte to get a result than under Pochettino?
Probably yes, because Antonio Conte has, developed and improved these players so much within, these 2 months that he has been here, and the way that he approaches games, the way that he sets us up, I feel very confident now. Even yesterday in the 96th minute, it's funny, my dad was next to me, and as soon as Heung-min Son put that ball down, I turned to him and said, "This is it. It's going to be 1-0." And he was like, "How did you know?" And I was like, I just feel so confident about this side at the moment. I know we've got limitations. I know that some of these players aren't good enough to play for Spurs right now, but it is all about just getting over the line and getting, them to develop just a little bit more. And, these games against Chelsea, the 3 games against Chelsea this month and the North London Derby, it is a huge month for us. And as I said earlier, I just hope at the end of the month that we are all smiling still, and hopefully we can put a trophy in the cabinet this season and hopefully finish in a top 4 spot, because that would be an incredible season.
Chris, let's have your prediction of the first leg and how it's all going to fold on.
I think it'll be a 1-1 draw Wednesday, and I'd be very pleased with that as well.
And you back us to go through?
Yeah. Arsenal in the final. And I tell you what, beating West Ham in the quarters, beating Chelsea in the semis, beating Arsenal in the final, that would shut them all up. And what an incredible season it would be. Starting with Nuno Espirito Santo, ending with Antonio Conte, ending with a trophy, ending with top 4. I tell you what, that would be an incredible season. And then Antonio Conte deserves a statue outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah. Let's come over to you, Simon. Listen, it's a big game. I mentioned battle of the bridge there to Chris, and I only did that because, under Pochettino, we felt there was something developing, there was something building. And again, I just wonder with Conte whether there's actual belief we can go there and get the result. And not only go there to keep the tie alive, but go there to win. Do you think the players believe that?
Yeah, I think we'll just go there and be really organised. I think defensively we're strong now. I think the strongest we've been for a long time. So, yeah, I was thinking about it today. I could see us nicking it 1-0 or being a 0-0. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game, but I definitely see us keeping a clean sheet. And yeah, my money's on a 1-0 Spurs win.
1-0 Spurs win. Clean sheet at the bridge. There you go.
Yeah.
I must say, as far as I understand, that Mendy may be going, I think he's going to the African nations, which would mean it's Kepa in goal. I can just see already there's loads of comments coming through as a Kepa masterclass incoming now, which would be so entwined with Tottenham. Pete, coming over to you to close it. What do you think? What can we do there? Can we go there to win it? Is it going to be more of a pragmatic approach from Conte on his return to the bridge?
I think it'll be a very pragmatic approach. I agree with Simon. I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in it. 1-0, 1-1, 1-0 either way, 1-1. I'd be more than happy with any of those because it gives us a great chance in the second leg. But yeah, I'd be extremely pleased if we come away with a win.
Can I push you for a prediction, Pete?
Okay, 1-1.
1-1 there from Pete. Okay. Don't worry, Pete. I'm not going to go as far as goal scorers. I'm not going to push you that far. Don't worry about it. We'll go.
What are you going with, Rick?
I'm going to go for, I think it'll be a 1-1. I think Chelsea will score first and we'll come back into the game. I just think it's so imperative to keep that tie alive going into the second leg. I think the Spurs stadium will be rocking that night. The atmosphere, Conte under the lights, as we know Conte, we've seen the animation of every game on the touchline, barking orders. And I just feel with Chelsea, I know Pete picked up on and I joke with him, but I agree with Pete. There's just something at Chelsea at the moment that in that first half, something wasn't quite right there. But I am cautious of saying that only because that we did see that uplift when they have got the couple of goals back. And like you, Chris, I fully expect Lukaku to come out with some form of a statement in those Monday, Tuesday ahead of the game that will just almost stabilise the camp to some degree. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes back now, plays the game, and almost a point to prove. But there you go. We have it. Chris, lovely to have you back on. Where can we find your wonderful work, Chris? Please let us know.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Rick. Lovely to talk to you, Pete and Simon tonight. And thanks for all of the viewers for their input. My YouTube channel is just simply Tottenham fan Chris Cowlin.
Love it. Fantastic. Pete, hopefully, Pete, there's some busy meetings coming up for you in the next few months. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we've opened talks with the football club about the fan-led review and implementing the recommendations. Very early stages, so nothing really to report on that yet. And this week, our members will be receiving all the information about our AGM, which comes up in February. So busy time for that. We're also continuing to support the Tottenham Food Bank appeal, the text appeal that we run in conjunction with the club. And hopefully we'll have some announcements to make about that during the week before the Morecambe game. So keep an eye on the Trust feed, THST official, or my feed, Pete Taboogie.
I love it. Fantastic. I must say, Pete, when you went with open talks, I got very, very excited. And then you said the next line. I was like, oh. But listen, it's all to come. We've got it all to come. I know Jason McGovern on our show is getting very excited by this transfer window. We're trying to calm him down, Pete. Honestly, he's getting absolutely carried away. Loves the work of Fabrizio and all of our wonderful transfer experts that are coming our way. I'm sure Chris will ratify that as well for me. Very, very excited about what's to come. Simon, lovely to have you on as well as Pete. Where can we find you on social media? Tell us where we can find you.
Simon J. Dent on Twitter. That's where I tend to hang out. I tweet far too much, but yeah.
Lovely.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. Been great, like I say, handing out debuts with Spurs winning. Well, I think, likewise as you, Chris, we're going to be back for instant reaction to that game, of course, against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We'll be expecting some early team news, hopefully, like I say, Monday, Tuesday. So listen, very, very busy month in store for Tottenham. Massive games to come. Huge transfer window. Like Pete, I hope we are not having the Diaz shirt of Blackburn on the 31st of January as our only signing. So most importantly, as always, guys, thanks so much for all your comments. Love, like I say, all the comments running tonight. Thank you so much, as always, for your time, for taking the time to listen. A very happy new year to you all. Keep safe, keep well. And as always,